Our society, that's wrong, right? He was married, he cheated on his wife, that's unethical, right? So there are certain rules and parameters that we live by, that we establish in our culture, which is essentially what ethics is. We have a we have a code of conduct in which we live by. Now, in some countries, it's perfectly okay to have more than one wife. But that's not what's right and ethical here in the U.S. So ethics is not the same everywhere you go. But you have to live by and abide by the ethics that are set forth before you in your environment. Okay, if that makes sense. Integrity is what's inside of you. So how do you interact with this code of ethics that are set forth in society? So Jesse James didn't abide by our ethical standards, so he's out of line. Who else? Can anybody else give an example of someone out of line with our ethical standards that we live here today? Tiger Woods. Tiger Woods was outside of that boundary. So it's all based on you. You have choices and decisions that you're going to have to make every day. You face a level of integrity every day that you have to choose. Do I speed through the red light, or do I stop because I'm late? Do I wake up earlier to get to school on time, or do I sleep in and speed through that light? All levels of integrity that you face every day. Everything that you do, you're dealing with your level of integrity. So it's important to make sure that you uphold the highest level of integrity, because it follows you everywhere you go. So if you are known for, let's say, James, I don't know you, but let's just say hypothetically that you are always late to class, and all of you know James is always late. He's going to carry that image on him probably throughout the entire school year, just because of the precedent that he set early on, right? Now, if James is a straight A student, which I'm sure you are, is a straight A student, that's probably going to follow him also. So what would you rather have follow you? The fact that you're late, or the fact that you're a straight A student?
Straight A student.
The fact that you're a top technician, or the fact that you really don't get this technician stuff and you keep on messing up customers' cars, right? So that's going to follow you. I'm sure Winston has heard stories of technicians who kind of have that image follow them no matter what Honda dealership that they go to. It may be that they can't even find work in a Honda dealership anymore because that level of integrity follows them to the point where everyone knows about this particular technician and they can't get work anywhere they go. So you just have to be conscious of your decisions on a daily basis. A lot of times it's so automatic for you guys. You make the right decisions and don't even think about it because it's second nature, and that's good. But your level of integrity is a continuous growth process. So you're going to keep experiencing new challenges, new environments in which they're going to test, or somebody's going to test, or some situation's going to test your level of integrity. And it's up to you to realize, hey, you know what? I'm really not sure about this. Let me check my gut and feel what's right and what's wrong. Take, for instance, Winston actually has some pretty good scenarios here, right? So let's assume that you're an express technician for any town Honda, okay? And your best friend has a Honda Civic that needs some service. And this friend of yours always hits you up. You know, she's always giving you, free stuff when you don't even ask for it. It's like you're not asking her, but because she likes you, she's giving you, preferred service right at her job. She comes in with her Civic and she says, "Hey, look, I need an oil change. Can you give me an oil change?" What would you do? Would you give her an oil change, go ahead with the service, and do it during lunchtime so that it's not on business hours? Give it to her for free. Would you ask your service advisor to write a repair order up with no charges and bring the vehicle in again when it's slow? So maybe toward the evening time when it's slowed down, and you ask your service advisor, "Hey, can you hook me up?" Wait until after work when nobody's around, and off the clock to service your vehicle. Or would you get some parts from the parts center, the parts shop, and then do it at your house. Now, not having paid for these parts. Or would you just have her, would you ask your general manager, is it okay, or the service manager, is it okay to give this customer a discount? Because she could be a potential preferred customer. That's a lot of scenarios. Which would you consider? The last one? You wouldn't even, I mean, she hooks you up during the, this is your homegirl. I mean, she is a friend of yours. You wouldn't even think a little bit about, well, maybe just a little bit. It wouldn't cross anybody's mind.
I would actually do it during lunch.
Yeah.
Because
And
it's
like,
your
do it
time.
during my lesson, like, come back on my lesson, I'll pick you up.
So you would hook her up without asking anybody.
Oh, well, I will ask for it.
Okay.
You told him to slow down, there's no one around.
Okay. All right. I think there are some very clear wrong answers in there, but some of the answers that you guys gave me, I think are perfectly acceptable. If you get permission from a person in charge or authority to say, hey, look, is it okay if this happens? You ask them, maybe it's a discount situation, and maybe that can result in more business because she's going to go tell another friend about the dealership. Maybe that's an acceptable position. But it's never cut and dry. It's never, sometimes it's black and white. Sometimes it's just wrong not to do something. But a lot of times there are a lot of shades of, you heard there's no black and white, there's shades of gray. You ever heard of that expression before? That's what ethics is. There is no, you're wrong, you're right. There's a lot of in between. And you're 51% wrong, 49% right. You're 51% right, 49% wrong. So it can change depending on the situation. It's rarely ever constant because you're going to be faced with a lot of different challenges. The reason that I think Winston brought up your peers pressuring you, because that's where you guys are going to get it most, is your friends are going to try and persuade you to do things that may not be the best things to do. Let's say, I'm sure you guys know people, and you don't have to fess up to it, drinking and driving. I know some friends who drink and drive. Will I ride with those people? No. Do I encourage it? No. But that's something that they do. I can't stop that person from doing it, but I can control the actions that I have. I'm not going to support that person, and I'm not going to encourage them to do that. I'm going to talk to them about not doing it, but that's their ultimate decision that they're going to have to live with. So let's just say about James, and James in his late state, which is just a hypothetical, because I know you're not late, James. If he's late, he has the choice to try and correct that over time. So he can start waking up earlier and getting to school or work early. Now, if he doesn't, then that goes with him that no one's going to trust him to be on time. James, we need you here because we're going to the movies. Have to be in the movies at 7 o'clock, James. Let me stop messing with you, James. That's too much. Randy, 7 o'clock, you have to be at the movie theater. Or, we can't get in. All of us are out of the movie if you can't wake up on time or get to the movie theater on time. Randy never shows up on time. But because he doesn't show up on time, nobody else gets in the movie. So, are you going to keep inviting Randy to the movies at 7 o'clock? Or, Randy, you're out. You just lost out. But that's going to follow you. So the decisions you make are going to follow you wherever you go. The same is going to apply with this entire group. So you're the first Explorer program to come through American Honda. You guys are laying the groundwork for anybody else who comes behind you. So when you go out and you tell somebody, I'm a Honda Explorer, people are going to ask you, okay, what's that all about? And you start telling them all the good things that the Explorer program is all about. If your level of integrity is so low, such that they're like, if this guy or this lady is in an Explorer program, I don't want any parts to do with that. Then that reputation can start spreading. So it's going to follow you guys wherever you go. Not be part of a group. That's going to impact all of you. So if one person's level of integrity is questioned, let's say in front of the vice president of the service division, it could potentially ruin or harm So your level of integrity follows you, so you have to make sure that you're on it every day. A lot of times, like I said, I'm not really too worried about this group because you guys are dialed in. But integrity in everything you do. There was one particular situation. I deal with a lot of confidential information on my job. So the next generation of Ford, what's it going to look like? The engine, the features that are going to be in it, Civic, all these cars, right? And USB devices, you can put a lot of confidential information on a USB device. But we were in Detroit one year, and some of the Toyota product planners were, walking around our cars, climbing in and out of them. It's not uncommon. We do it all the time. Well, one of our PR people brought a little USB device over to me and said, "Hey, look, I think someone dropped this in your car. They were climbing out of the inside." I said, "Okay, well, maybe it was one of our planners. Let me go take a look at it." On this USB device were future product development plans for Toyota. So my level of integrity, okay, what do I do? Well, this is a gold mine from a product planning perspective. I know everything that the competitor's going to do. So I needed some counseling. I needed to see from our executives, what do we need to do with this USB device? So our executive said, okay, you know what? We're going to turn this over to our legal department and have our legal department turn that back over to Toyota. Because if we have to get ahead by looking into someone else's future plans, then we're really not doing us a favor. We're not putting our best foot forward. That's cheap.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's situations like that all the time. That free oil filter, that free oil change. I'll hook your car up. Just think about that as you're going through. It may not seem big, but Winston was just telling me. Winston, can you share the story that you told me about the oil filter earlier?
Actually, just recently I found out that one of our top technicians, master technician, got dismissed from his job. He's a shop foreman and a master technician because of an oil filter and doing a side job, they call it, at the dealer. So he took the oil filter before lunch to the side job, went to lunch, and I guess over lunch he thought about it. This is the right thing to do. By the time he got back to the dealer, they told him he should leave. He don't have a position anymore.
An oil filter.
Oil filter is $4.
Now, if someone comes to Winston because he knows a lot of the technicians, Honda technicians all across the country, if someone comes to him and says, "Hey, look, I have this guy who's applying for my job, what can you tell me about him?" From Winston's position, I mean, what do you say? He's a great technician, I'm assuming, right? He's a master.
Sharp guy.
Sharp guy. But do you expose that? Do you bring that up? Is his integrity level shot? It probably is, because you're going to hesitate for a little bit before you recommend or not recommend that person. But that's your integrity level. What do I do? What would you do? What would you guys do? You would tell him what? Okay. Would you recommend it? No right or wrong answers here. I'm just, because your answers are going to vary.
People make mistakes. I guess it all depends on the way you know the person. If you know the person as he always does that, then I wouldn't recommend it. But I mean, you know the person personally, or you know what his or her thoughts have been on that, and then I guess that could play a part in the decision. I mean, it's also like if you recommend someone, it's also on you.
Right.
It's not just like let's say Winston recommends someone, and then they come back and say, "Hey, Winston, this guy is like, he told me he was top notch."
So, if that's the case, so if the guy comes back to be a dud, let's say, right? The guy is no good, but he still knows his way around the car. Not only is his integrity messed up, but now the fact that you recommended him impacts your level of integrity. So how can I now trust you, Max, on the recommendation that you gave me? So anything just keep going down the line. And by the time it gets, it's like whispering, what they call whispering down the lane. If I tell you something, right? By the time it gets down to, what's your name?
Norwin?
Norwin. By the time it gets down to Norwin, it can be something totally different. Totally different. So that level of integrity is important to maintain at this point. So if I tell you something, it should be so clear that it gets down to him. Your level of integrity throughout this classroom is known. James is a straight A student. He gets to explore class one time. He doesn't sleep in late. If he did, he fixed it. You don't even think about that anymore, right? But it follows you every day. Any other examples of low morals or integrity that you've seen on TV or in your schools or anything? Yeah. Yes, sir.
Here at Honda, we had 12 salespeople that went to jail for a very long period of time for doing unethical things. So many years ago, Honda cars were so in demand that if you were a salesperson working for American Honda and you could walk into a dealership and the dealer would do anything to get extra cars because dealers were making a lot of money on each car. So we had some salespeople that said, well, if you slip me $500 under the table, I'll get you more cars. And then from there it went to new dealerships. If I could get a new dealership, I will give you a lot of money. So there were many favors handed out to profit from Honda's good name and reputation out there. So by us not catching that and correcting it, it tarnished our image for a while out in the marketplace because we had employees internally that were profiting from our good name in ways that we shouldn't have done. And these guys went to jail for a long time. It wasn't 6 months in the county jail. They went to federal penitentiaries. One of them was the guy that sat in the office next to me. I saw him every day. And I can tell you that his jail cell was smaller than an office he was sitting in. So a lot of what you're learning here tonight, you can keep taking it up and up, higher scale. But sooner or later, even though you might get away with it once or twice, sooner or later you're going to end up get caught. All of these guys got caught.
So, thank you for that story. And every company may have a different standards of ethics, or you may be involved in another group that have a different way of thinking about things. Here at Honda, basically our core philosophy is respect for the individual. So, Max's opinion, I'm going to respect even though I may not agree with it. Respect it because I respect you as an individual. And then all the way around the room as well. That's Honda's core philosophy. It may be different in Toyota. They may have a totally different, or in Nissan or in Chrysler. They have a totally different ethical kind of code that they live by. But overall, if you can't abide by that code, at some point in time you're going to get called out, and you're going to have to figure out, okay, well, how do I fess up, or how do I encounter or deal with this particular situation? But it's going to change. Opportunities will present itself every day. I know when I was growing up, when I was your age, you would pay for one movie, right? You sit through this movie, see, my 2-hour movie. Oh, there's another movie that's going on 5 minutes later. I did that. Very not unethical because I only paid for one movie, but I saw 2, right? I'm not going to sit up here and act like I'm perfect. No, nobody in this room is perfect, so don't think that for a minute. But it's a growth process. Had I been caught knowing my parents, that would not have been a good situation. Like, out on the street, don't come back until you get yourself straight. That's how my parents kind of roll, right? So, but I put myself in that situation to take that risk, just because my friends were doing, oh, come on, Bill, let's go see what's up. So you have to think about it every day. I'm talking about little small things, and I'm sure you guys are dealing with a lot more different things because I didn't have the internet and the cell phone when I was, your age. But there's a lot of stuff out there. I know Facebook is another place where ethics can be called into question. Posting stuff about people that may not be true pictures that aren't supposed to be on there. And, I have a little girl now, and I don't know what I'm going to do with her in Facebook. Because a lot of stuff gets spread out there in integrity, right? So if one person starts it, they call it 6 degrees of separation, right? So you know somebody in this world through 6 other people. Just by reaching out to 6 other people, you can get to, Prince William in England. Somehow, some way, it keeps growing and growing and growing. That's what Facebook is like. So if you guys have Facebook profiles, like if I were to look up, I'm just gonna mess with you, James. I'm sorry. Mark. If I were to look up Mark Ramirez from what high school? From Narbonne. You have a Facebook page?
Yeah.
Okay. If I looked you up on Facebook and I saw something that wasn't in line with how this Explorer program operates, I'm going to start to question, okay, well, did you fool us to get in here? I mean, what's going on? It should be consistent. Your level of integrity should be consistent throughout every stage, every day, from when you wake up to when you go to sleep. A real measure of your integrity is who are you when no one else is around? Because a lot of people are different in a uniform. This is my uniform. And then when I get out, if you guys saw me hanging out, somewhere or walking sloppy, drunk down somewhere, you're like, hey, we'll walk from home. It's like, worlds apart, right? I'm not saying you can't have fun. No, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. But you would start to question, who was this dude who really came in and talked to us? I mean, he was blowing smoke, essentially. Right, James? Is that what you think about me? Does anybody have any questions or is unclear about how your integrity level is going to follow you, how important it is, not only to you as an individual, to your family, to your friends, to your school, to the Explorer program, and then as you get older, what you do here, a lot of people can have this on your resume, and people can say, hey, Winston, can you tell me about the Explorer group and how they interacted with you and how ethical they were and their level of integrity? You're going to rely on him to give a recommendation to the next person. So again, it keeps building on top of each other. What you do now is going to impact you tomorrow, in a week, in a year, in 5 years, in 10 years. So just think about that. Any questions, concerns? I mean, you guys are dialed in, so I'm preaching to the choir. You guys already know this information. So, any questions? Is there anything that any other instructor want to throw in about integrity or challenges that you guys may have faced growing up, or Facebook posts you guys want to take down tonight?
I think one thing that's important for the group and all of us to remember is, that integrity and ethical behavior and what Gwen sharing with us, it's something no one can do. It's something that you control. It's something that you own yourself. It's said that anything that anyone can take from you isn't really worth that much, right? So think about what you own and what you represent, as William mentioned, to yourself, your family, your friends. And, that's really what's important. So the great thing about no matter who you are, where you come from, or where you're headed, the great thing about things like ethics and integrity is it's completely what you make it. And it's something that you'll own for your entire life, and really has a material impact on those that you care about and the people that care about you. So take his word, not just from a practical standpoint of getting a job, but just, being a good person, while you're here. So that's a great thing about Honda. Honda recognizes that, and I think this program is an example of that, what Gina and her organization does, recognizing that people have that value and people can't, no one can take that from you. So own it.
service managers, service advisors, maybe parks and service directors, general managers of dealerships. We have a lot of technology in the pipeline, and the whole marketplace is changing. So you guys are at a really good point in time to see a lot of these changes. It's going to happen in a blink of an eye. But knowing that, how, if you're in a business position where you're running your own business, do you use your knowledge to exploit people? Because there are some businesses that will, I want to make the most money that I can. I'm the only Honda dealership in town. You can't go anywhere else. So what are you going to do? I'm going to charge you however much I want to. If you don't want to come to me, fine, but your car's not going to run properly. There's some car dealers like that out there. I mean, I can say it, not just only Honda, but I mean in general. They're clothing shops. I mean, if I asked you, had you ever encountered a situation like that where you were like, I can't believe this person is trying to charge me for this much for something? I don't know. Have you guys ever had that?
Having the products in the store, there's sometimes like it's the only place you can find it, and it costs like $7 when you had it like $3 when it was everywhere.
Exactly. So you have to use your level of integrity, even though you're the only dealer in town, even though you're the person who spent all those hours training Winston and the other instructors in this service facility. How are you going to treat that next person? Because with all this technology, just like I said, Facebook, all it takes is one entry. Don't ever go to James's repair facility. I'm sorry, James. We'll see you next time. Don't ever go to James's repair facility because he charged me, 180% on the part. A $4 oil filter, he charged me $25. It's like what's that about?
Plus labor.
Making more money on one customer, but you just lost 10. About $25. Tell me how long that lasts you. Minus 4. You have $21 profit.
If I go to Arizona and chips day,
Yeah, there you go. Good luck with that one. But I appreciate you. Thank you, James. I appreciate it. But that's kind of what we're saying, is that it follows you. So think about, you're learning a lot. You're going to have a lot of leverage in the business place. With cars, people don't know. It's like going to a doctor. A lot of people are like, I don't know what's going on with my car. Just fix it. And you can throw all kinds of stuff at them, and they would never know. Oh, that's way too high, but if that's what I need, okay. Now, how are you going to feel about yourself? What does that say about your level of integrity? Don't be that person that gets caught with a secret camera on the eyewitness news, selling a new engine to someone who only needs, a valve adjustment. It happens every day. So just think about that moving forward. You guys are in a very, very, very important position here. The Explorer program, its reputation rests on you guys and what you do moving forward. When you guys are the senior service and technician or parts and service director, I was a Honda Explorer back in 2010, 11. And we're